it was definitely from a family standpoint. Definitely my parents, played a lot of like 80s R&B. On my mother's side, it was more R&B. My dad, it was more like funk, reggae. But it was just all over the place, like from Parliament to Gap Band and like, man, lots of Al Green. So it was just like, with that music, when I hear it today, it's just like anything, your senses kind of bring you back to a place, and it's really powerful, I think, when you experience that. So why not incorporate it into the music? And I find like with the visual part with video games, for some reason outside of music, it always brought me back to a time when, my father, it would take me and my older brother he would take us to the arcade when arcades were a thing every weekend, and then after that we would go watch a movie in the theater. So that was just something that really, stayed with me. Not so much my older brother anymore, but, he was more of a gamer growing up than me, but it just really stuck with me. And, I did live in Japan, so Japan is heavy on the video games to this day. There's arcades out there. There's, you got retro shops that people from all over the world go to. You can get any type of system, from the 80s to now, and it's still available. So, I like to, kind of pull people back, not backwards, but, to a time where they could catch that feeling again, So that's definitely something that I try to bring out in my music. The culture shock was like, it didn't go away for like years after I came back. Cause, I could even remember, well, I'll start off with why I went there. It was like, growing up, my pops, he was always into like, Kung Fu movies and stuff like that, but that's more like Hong Kong and like, China. But, we had an exchange student live with us. I think I was like 6 years old. And this kid was from Yokohama. Funny story is like, my dad doesn't even remember signing up for being like a host parent for like an exchange student. So it caught him off guard. I don't even know if like, anyways, that's another story. But, that student lived with us. He was a high school student from Yokohama. And I remember just taking him to like, we all took him to like a little Japanese exhibit, in our area. And after that, that impression just stayed with me. And I always wanted to go, but I didn't really have a chance. So, I met some friends from Japan, and they told me to come out there and they could try to set me up with some work, like teaching English, and like I could do the music. I was doing music at the time. So that was kind of like, it was just a motivation because I was always ready to go. I just, that's a big step to go somewhere where you're completely different. And the culture shock was very, very heavy. But, man, it was just like really addictive because I ended up going back like 7 times, I think, after I moved back home. Yeah, man, it was a good impression. Definitely. As far as, the album and traveling, to Japan, I haven't been back for a while, but, being back here in North America, and just like kind of seeing what's happening with, the world, I just really just want to encourage people, just to like, especially musicians, to just really kind of take your time and, put out music that's just going to really make an impression, especially these days, because I think the listeners really need it, and, being consistent is one thing, but I feel like quality is still, something that's really important. There's a lot of quality music out right now. It's just like, I love where music is going, and, there's not too much really I can say on top of that, but just, giving a shout out to my family, my pops, he's definitely, as you hear, a big inspiration on a lot of things that I talk about these days. And, both of my parents, my mother as well, yeah, shout out to my dad. Unfortunately, he's going through some tough times. He had a really big stroke earlier this year, so, but he's definitely a fighter. So, he's pulling through. Biggest thing he always told me, and he would still tell me this day, would be like the time you have. Really, he would always tell me, like, he would always be saying these, like, kind of, it came across like riddles at times, but, time is neutral, and, it's us that are moving forward. So don't get caught up so much on, like, this life, but you really utilize, this life and time that you have. If you understand what I'm trying to say, it's just like, just use it to its fullest, and just enjoy life, man. And at the same time, use this time to, like, inspire people around you. That's what's really, taught me, because, my dad, he's definitely a speaker. He loves speaking to people all around. And unfortunately, he can't speak anymore. And that was just like the consequences of, just with a stroke. You never know how it's going to affect you. But, he's always left me with that, about time, man, and just appreciate the time that you have. Yeah, it's definitely, it's right here, and God works through difficult situations. And I find, like, people want to find the easy way out these days, but really it's those moments where it's the most challenging that God is really at work, man. And that's how my family moves, and we continue to move like that. And I'm, definitely, respect on bringing that up, man, because that's very true. Like, either you could, like, just either go with it or let it beat you down. And, like, it's like, really, it comes to just two choices, man. And, God is always able, and he'll, build you up in the long run.